Now, the idea of IESL is actually to bring about the railway transport discussion to the fore. This is the second lecture that we have. We recently had a Rampala Memorial Lecture, and one of the former general managers of Sri Lanka Railway spoke very eloquently with a lot of information, and this is the second one. So where I'm heading as the chairman of the Mechanical Engineering Sectional Committee for a national symposium, if I could pull this off. And I would like all your help, because we are going to take it to the public. We have to take these kind of discussions outside IESL and take it to the public. I think it was very clear that we need to do this at this stage. Let me, during this discussion, I'm going to ask very straightforward questions, and we'll take 1-2 minutes to answer, and we'll take a lot of questions from the audience as well, as much as possible. The plan is to have a session for about 45 minutes to 1 hour, but if you all are interested and continue to ask questions and the eminent panel is available, we'll continue. We'll discuss and we'll figure this out. Let me start a little bit from today's context. These are some of the statistics I just read yesterday. Now, year 2012 census is out. You know, there was a census done recently, year 2012, Sri Lanka census, and it is out. I think it's very important that as engineers and other fellow colleagues, we go and look at that census. Now, in that census, which is the most recent one, it says that 18% of the population in Sri Lanka, roughly about 18% of the population in Sri Lanka, lives in Colombo district and within that close proximity. 18% of the population. So you know our population, how many millions? Out of that, 18% live in Sri Lanka. Interestingly, this Colombo district, where this many people live in, is not as dense as other countries, like some other countries like Jakarta or Singapore and other places, because we have roughly about 4,000 persons per square kilometer, whereas the cities I mentioned have more than 10,000 citizens. Our population growth across Sri Lanka is very small, I think around about 1% or something like that over the years, very, very slow population growth. When it comes to Colombo district, it's actually even half of that. That's what the census says. But guess what? The number of vehicles on the road, the passenger vehicles, is increasing for the last 10 years, 5% per year. And I'm sure you don't need the census to understand that. We have plenty of vehicles on the road. So I would like to start right there before we dive into the context of Ranjit, and I'll come back to that. But let me ask a very, very current topic. RDA, which was mentioned, Road Development Authority, is in the process. In fact, there was a lecture here, building more roads. The high-rise, I think they're called high-rise roads, right, above the road. So I'm going to point this question straight first to our professor here, the Siva, to you, and then I'll take the next one to Priyal, and then we'll go on. So, Siva, tell us, just give us a sense of what's going on here. Are we doing prudent things? Should we have just tell us a little bit about, take a few minutes and tell us where your head is on all these things.
Thank you very much for being here. I think it's a very informative session. In fact, thanks for the presenter, and also thanks for the invitation to take some part in this knowledge dissemination. I think I don't want to say anything because it's very apparent, and we are day-to-day life, we are experiencing this, the word called congestion. And suddenly we got into a mood, vehicle is not moving. And as very correctly said, that population growth is not very alarming compared to the neighboring countries. But in terms of the vehicle population growing, is very alarming. Very significantly is increasing, mainly because of the smaller vehicles are coming too fast. Because the population, if you go a little bit of a socio-economic point of view, the income, the middle income group is now jumping into owning a vehicle, which is because of the affordability. It goes the population, more percentage of the people is moving to the smaller vehicles, including the motorbikes, as well as the small vehicle starting from Tata Nano and several other versions of smaller vehicles. which really giving contribution to the number of vehicles. But in terms of the vehicle occupancy, very sad that close to one vehicle per one person. So that is the bad story here, because vehicle occupancy is the matter. When it comes to rail, very rich in that single unit, which is called the complete set of compartments, which is moving as a unit, carries many faults of what is happening on the road. So very frank and very positive about the railway, but we are not cultivating that much. And also we have to say that since he has touched on this elevated roadways and so on, partly some are blaming that why we want more and more roads, and some are blaming why we couldn't manage the road efficiently rather than building more roads. It's a debatable question, because actually we need some supply increment also. That is in this knowledge contest, supply mean is a road construction. The demand mean is who won't use the road. So we cannot just justify the road construction only, that is the supply side, as well as we have to manage the demand, how we want to manage the demand. So I'm not very negative about this road construction. I think that must be in place. But in a longer vision, we should have a management strategies also, how we are going to manage the demand. There are so many different strategies. I don't know how much I can go into the detail. Going into this urban land use. Urban land use, how we manipulate the land use by using public transport. Either it can be rail, or it can be bus, or anything related to public transport. Why we call public transport and why it is important thinking about public transport, because the single unit carries more passengers. That is very important message. So the vehicle occupancy, simple term is vehicle occupancy. If the vehicle occupancy is high, leave that priority to that particular vehicle. If you are driving alone, give a least priority. That is the mechanism, very simple.
Okay, thank you, Shiva. Now, let me take this along and point actually a little bit, slight twist to the question, Priya. Again, quoting from the census that just came out, it says that the country is planning for 8.5 million citizens living in this Colombo district by year 2030. That's I think, threefold increase given the current number. 8.5 million by year 2030. Already in discussions in the newspapers, etc., are things like public transport modes, such as monorails, mega terminals, the one that is being proposed to the around Fort, where everything gets connected, are some other examples. So, Priyal, what I like to ask you is that you are a railway man for sure. There's no question about it. Die-hard guy like Ranjit. Do you believe, how strongly you believe that railway as a public transport means to urban population first, and then as a public transport, not consumer goods or stuff like that, public transport means for outside Colombo? I would like to hear your thoughts about that.
First of all, let me thank Arjuna for taking the lecture delivered by Ranjit Dissanayake forward by having this panel discussion. Okay, to answer your question, now I think all of you will understand that railway is not a door-to-door mode of transport. It has to be assisted by some other mode for you to get your destination and for you to come to the station head. Having said that, now you can overcome these problems by having a good rail bus coordinated service, starting from various stations to your destination. Or, like in other countries, you can have a vehicle parking at the station so that you come and park your vehicle, get it to the train, go to your destination, do your business, come back to the station where you have parked the vehicle, take the vehicle and go back. Now, this kind of facility is still not available in Sri Lanka. Now, in other countries, from the same ticket, you can go by rail as well as by bus. So that is a convenience given by the government to the passengers. Sometimes, now I have been in Japan, actually rail and bus are run by not by the government, they are run by private firms, private enterprises. But still they know how to share the travel distance that the passengers made, the cost of the travel distance. But we had to understand that the rail is very much cheaper than by going by bus. If I do a small calculation on the price of fuel only for the moment, that is any train consumes 3 liters of diesel to run a kilometer, and it can take some of these trains can take 1,000 passengers. Right? And so actually train costs about 30 cents, passenger cost for a kilometer on diesel is only about 30 cents. Whereas the bus, on the other hand, it can run 4 kilometers on a liter of diesel, but it can take only 50 passengers. So there the passenger cost for diesel per kilometer on diesel is about 60 cents. It's about double. So definitely we can't sort of do away with the railway. We had to improve the railway, and we had to see that railway, we attract more passengers to the railway, and of course give them the convenience by having a rail bus coordinated system. Or on the other hand, now there's a new concept where I was involved very lately, where there was a study done by JICA to have a monorail system. Now, if we can have this monorail system, because that if we have a monorail system on present roads, I mean then the acquisition is also going to be less. There is no problem with the acquisition, and you can take it interior to the present railways. Now, the present railways, the southern railway line runs on the coast, so it feeds only one corridor. But if you can take a monorail system interior, and if it can sort of later on divert towards Forana, Piliyandala, maybe other places, say Battaramulla, Nuvegola, Kottava, and all those places, and like the London Underground, and it becomes a network, then of course this problem will be very greatly solved. I don't think anybody will use his private car to pump any business in Colombo, as long as you have a very good rail network system like the London Underground.
May I add something more to Mr. Rialto Silvas? Question of 18% of the population living in Colombo. That doesn't mean that 18% of the population is only traveling here in Colombo. It is out of Colombo, from its suburbs, say for instance from Galle, Madar, daily commuters travel down to Colombo for employment. The white and black collar workers, they travel down to Colombo for employment. So how do they travel? Mostly by train. There are 3 or 4 or 5, how many trains? Coastline, anybody knowledgeable? Yes, the coastline again. How many trains? About 20 trains in the morning? About 20 trains. about 10 trains travel on the coastline from about, say, Gaul, from Mathura, from Gaul, then from Alugram, then from Kalutara South, then from Panadura. I'll be terminating at those stations and coming to Colombo. So all that, and say even in the main line, all the way from Kandy, people come down to Colombo work. All the way from Chilau, people come down to work. So it is all, not only feeding the 18% population. If that train travelers, if they are to live in Colombo, we will have, the city will be congested more. There will be more health assets. There will be housing problems. There will be power and water supply and other facilities has to be provided. So all that is prevented by having the railway. So railway is doing the utmost where those people are concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranjit. I just want to make a clarification. The 18.5 million number I quoted as Colombo district, it is people who live there, and as Ranjit said, Francian people. So the people, essentially what he's saying, like New York, people altogether, people who are there during most of the day, they are either living in Colombo or people who have moved into Colombo on that particular day of that weekend or whatever from outside. So that's the number 18.5 million. Now let's then I'll give you a chance to, I'll ask one more question, set the podium and then set the stage, and then give the opportunity for the audience to ask some questions. One last question, one specific question. Now, I'm a layman. I am a user of railways. I actually love traveling by train. This is my best mode of transport. I have a lot of fond memories. I learned three things from Ranjit's presentation. One thing I knew is I always knew what we have as our railway system is what Suddha gave. That I knew. That we say all the time when you're on the railway track. I mean, when you're on a train, in a train, we always say that. Make a Suddha Deepu De. Right? We all know that. Because you just look at some other railway stations, you know that belongs to 100 years ago. Recently they were painted for, I think, Chogam. I think for Chogam things were painted, but before that they looked almost like they were from 100 years ago. So that we know. But what I learned today is things like this. It's common sense, but it's good to hear from an expert. One, this railway, you call it the trace, where the railway roads are. It seems like these railway roads are taken through a process of most difficulty from today's context. So I heard this even from a previous lecturer, that the railway track should be through as much as possible flat ground. So you can go fast, take a lot of passengers and etc. go fast. This is one thing I learned. Second thing I learned is that all the control systems are antiquated. The control system for the railway are all antiquated. Ranjit was referring to color bulbs, red and light, and you are actually mimicking exactly what happens in railway today if you go to a station.
That is fires, temperatures.
Right. Now, the third thing I learned is that the gauge, you mentioned technically you mentioned, I think the way I understand is whatever the size of these trains, that's how I understood it, the size of the trains, the coaches or the engines, the way I understood it, if you were to buy any of these things, you have to go to these 13 or 15 countries that Ranjit mentioned mostly. Most of them are what I would term as third world countries, or not the most developed countries. And obviously we know that you'll have to wait for a long period of time and the quality and etc. So it looks like we are using some old style railway coaches or systems maybe. So those are the three things I learned. Now I'll pose a question to Priyal on this one. What do you have to say about these three things? These are simple things I understood. I'm sure the audience understood the same way.
With regard to the terrain, as far as the present railway is concerned.
Priyal, excuse me. Actually, I need to follow up with a question. Now, first we would like to hear your thoughts on that, and then also how can we change it? It sounds like we need a lot of capital.
Okay, right. As long as the present railway is concerned, the terrain that Ranjit spoke about, especially the up-country line, is on 1 in 44 gradients, ruling gradient, and with 100 meter curves, that is 5 curves, as he told. Now the issue is that this railway line, as Ranjit mentioned, was mainly designed to carry the tea from those areas to Colombo port for export. They never thought of anything to do with passengers at that time. mainly designed as a freight train to transport of freight. But now, in the modern era, we carry passengers also in the same trains. But we carry them, as Sajid pointed out, at 32 kilometers per hour, 20 miles per hour, which means that to go from Colombo to Padulla, it takes 9 hours, which is not at all conducive to passengers. So, and more than that, technically, railways actually losing quite a lot on this business. Not for anything else, we cannot haul by the locomotives that we have today more than 7 coaches, I believe. 7 coaches, no? On the incline, maximum 8, say 7 or 8. But if you have to haul more than that, by any means, you have to double head or push and pull. Push and pull. So, actually, when M1s were imported long time back by Mr. Rampala in 1950s, the night mail was having altogether, I think, 12 coaches. And those were rather heavy coaches because those were all wooden coaches. And unlike the present day, is steel and aluminum coaches. Now, he had to use one loco to pull the train, and the loco to push the train. On the return, after particular, the locos were double-headed and brought to Navalapiti. So, this is the arrangement that they made. But this means to take 12 coaches, we had to utilize 2 locomotives, means the consumption of diesel, consumption of the materials for maintenance, all that is extra cost for railway. Now, it's a good time to tell you the variable cost of running a kilometer in today's railway is about 1,200 rupees. When I say variable cost, is instant maintenance of track by the passage of one train, for the maintenance of the locomotive, driver's salary, station master's salary, guard salary, all that is 1,200, and the diesel and the lubricants, 1,200 rupees a kilometer. And our ticket price is only how much? 1 rupee 10 cents. Which means to break even on the variable, we have to carry 1,000 passengers. Now, except for the Samudra Devi and the intercity train which comes from Galle, which about 12 or 13 coaches, none of the other trains you can carry 1,000 passengers. Sometimes 1,000 passengers may be going, but they are actually hanging on footboard very dangerously and so forth. So, actually, tell you very frankly, the day that railway goes on strike, railway is running at a profit. Because that means less trains means, right, losses are less. Right. So, this is the situation in the railway. This is the situation in the railway. I can remember during my time, once the drivers wanted their designation changed to pilot. I didn't allow. Although the minister wanted me to allow, I told minister, no, I am not going to allow because you have to change so many rules and regulations in the railway. I am not going to. Then he told, GMR මහත්තයා ඇයි මේක කරන්න බැරි? මම එමෙතුමාට කිව්වා මේක කරන්න බැරි හේතුව මොකක්ද කියලා. එමෙතුමා කරන්න ඕන නම් මං ගෙදර යන්නම්. එමෙතුමා මගේ පුතුට ඇවිත් like Rampal, I used to told him. Right. I was not scared of minister. Minister was none other than Mr. Felix Pereira. Right. I told him so. So that's how the railway should be run, not just keep your mouth shut. Ranjit knows about that. Right. So this is the situation in the railway today. The next question is about the gauge. Yes. as the Britishers informed, and the Britishers has put it, we have to actually, we have this 5 foot 6 inches gauge. It is only, which is only in place in India, Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Now, I don't know why Britishers have put this gauge. Maybe that they thought that these Asian countries, they are going to have a big population explosion, and therefore they must have bigger carriages to carry people. And when Asians go here and there, they carry very big bags and go. Because of that reason, I think they would have wanted a bigger gauge. So, whatever it is, now we have a problem like this. Now, when we want to order, when you have to buy sleepers, or when you have to buy sleepers or make sleepers, we have to get much longer sleepers. One of our sleepers are about 9 feet long. 9 feet long. Whereas the 4 foot 8.5 gauge sleeper is only about 7 feet. Then it comes to the locomotives. We have to make it a job order production. Like means it's specifically made for this particular railway. 5 foot 6. That's why, as Sanjit told, the prices are high. Because when we give the order only, they start manufacturing. Otherwise, it's not readily available in the market. So, those are the problems that we have. So, when it comes to spares also, it's very difficult to get spares because when the locomotive, when we order the spares, sometimes it takes about 6 or 7 months before the spares are exported from those countries. Sometimes you won't believe as layman that sometimes the tender is called and we reserve the money and keep thinking the parts will come during that particular year, but the parts don't come. So money goes back to the treasury. So we have to utilize the next year's allocation when the parts come to clear the parts. Sometimes the treasury doesn't have the money to give us at that time. Then what happens? We have to borrow from the banks. And when I was there, we had a debt of 120 billion Sri Lanka rupees to as a debt for People's Bank. That is because for clearing goods, we had not cleared the goods at the correct time for demurrage charge. So these are the problems that in the railway today.
Thank you, Priyal. I think you covered the capital, the investment on capital. How can we change this? Probably both of you should take it, and then I'll turn it to the audience to ask some questions.
Investment on the capital.
Because I'm posing this to Siva and Priyal both because Ranji spoke about this. How can we find money?
Yeah, the investment capital, as you know, when I joined the railway in 1975, rail was only about 3,000 or 4,000 rupees. Today the rail is 100. So just see, within the maybe about 35 years, about 40 years, how it has gone up in price. At the same time, W1, W2 locomotive was 800,000 rupees. 800,000 rupees in 1968. Today, a similar locomotive will cost nothing less than 200 million. Nothing less than 200 million rupees. So this is the cost escalation. But the allocations that have been given by the treasury has not increased to that extent. It has not increased by say 200-fold or likewise. It has increased to a certain extent, but it has not increased to that extent. Same time, you know, in 1960s, a sterling pound was 1350. I think some of you all would have studied arithmetic. In A.P. Jayasuriya's book, it says 1 sterling pound is 1340. 1340. Right? Today, a sterling pound is how much? Over 200. So, what happens is, what is available in sterling pounds, we have to spend more Sri Lanka rupees to purchase them. Right? So, the foreign exchange component for railway means a foreign exchange component. It's mainly foreign exchange. Now, in other countries, the diesel they have the diesel with them. Here, diesel also is a foreign exchange component. Except the labor, every other thing in the railway is foreign exchange component. To make you understand, I have a cousin in Edinburgh. Now, he says, London to Edinburgh and return is 1,000 kilometers. It cost him 125 pounds. That is 25,000 rupees. That is 25 rupees a kilometer. 25 rupees a kilometer. Today, if we charge 25 rupees a kilometer in Sri Lanka Railway, we can make Sri Lanka Railway run at a profit. Right? So what is the difference? British Railways, right, use the same rails, same locomotives, same carriages, right, same lubricants, same diesel, right. So why are we giving our railway, the cost of our railway at 1 rupee 10? Why don't you charge at least 10 rupees or 15 rupees? Or on the other hand, okay, you build let the railway build at 10 or 15 rupees. But let the treasury say that railway is running at a profit because the treasury wants the railway to run at 1 rupee 10 cents. Okay, we'll run at 1 rupee 10 cents. That's a different thing altogether. But we have to charge treasury at 15 rupees because that's the normal standard fare. So treasury can't say railway is running at a profit. At the same time, now when somebody wants people to come from Jaffna to Colombo by train, railway sends trains, 4 trains, 6 trains to Jaffna, get down people to Colombo for various meetings. And go and drop them also at Jaffna and come empty. Right. Now, whose cost is this? Who bears this cost? Now, railway has to run hospital services. Railway has to run school services. Right? And school service is how much? At 10% of the normal cost. What is the government service price of ticket? 10% of the normal cost. What about the private sector? Who is working at Brown and Company, maybe RTA or some other place, right? All those people are given at 1/3 the actual cost. And what about the warrants for the government service? All that is, although it is paid later, it's also at a subsidized cost. So, ideally, you can understand why people are saying railways running at a loss. And whenever there's a festival, Buddhist festival, pilgrimage to Anuradhapura for Posong or some other place, or church festival, the railway has to run services. Now, same time, railway has to run night services. Sometimes, when the railway runs night services to Rabukkan or Mahud, the facilities for drivers and guards to stay there, book off there is not available. So, the train has to come back to Colombo empty. And early morning, it has to again go empty and bring back the passengers and come. Seva Vitarna will, what I'm getting is correct.
Right, Priyal.
Thank you.
Definitely, you can see the passion oozing out from Priyal. He really feels. Of course, I understand that because for the first time, I really got the numbers in my head: 1 to 1,000 ratio, almost the cost versus the what we are charging. I mean, it surely get any citizen worked up, right? This is the first time I heard those numbers in my life, and I'm utterly surprised about that. Let's do this. Now, I want to get the audience involved here. So I will give you, Siva, maybe not fair, but 1 minute. No, you take this one. Quick answer. We can always come back. Ranjit, you will always come back to questions. Don't worry about it. As far as our audience is here. Very straightforward question to you. If you can say that that's too simple to answer, too complex to answer in 1 minute. Very simple question. We understand where things are in this short period of time. We understand where things are. We got an antiquated system. We are not even recovering cost of it. And we get it. We get the point. Now, in your research work, or you must have done a lot of research work, had there been countries which had been in this situation, right? All railway systems, escalating cost, government or the system does not recover the cost, but eventually really turn things around. Are there any other countries like that in your research work?
Just point any example for that. But in another way, for the experience what these two gentlemen has, I'm nothing. But in terms of the how to make things viable in terms of finance, I think we can look around a few other examples around our country, or even a little far from the East Asian countries. We can quickly take some examples. That is when, let's say for example, the government is interested in pumping some money, let's say after listening to our forums and this, and if they want to pump some money for the railway, it's not pumping the money for station development. That's what I would like to say, that it should be the integrated multimodal station design. So that's mean just developing a station won't work too much. So there should be an integration, there should be a shopping complex. Not only that, even the station, just for an example, PETA, it's not the PETA station premises. It has to be taken the surrounding areas, and it has to be developed fully to integrate any other modes, particularly the bus. Bus, rail, everything should be connected, and commercial activities must be there, and it should be a livable complex. And once you go into the station, you don't feel like where are your railway track, where are your bus track, where is your shopping complex. You do enjoy being in the station. That is the first financial model we have to look at it. Because so far we thought railway station mean ugly, dirty. So that picture must be changed in our mind. That should be by the infrastructure design. So if you take a very, too much for us to compare, but Japan stations which are underground, no disturbance to the, very less disturbance to the surface transport, but everything is underground. We don't want to go for that, but at least we can use the existing line with some additional concentration for this station design integrated with the bus. Very sure trains are superior in terms of the service, carrying capacity is very high, we can go for higher speed. Only the thing is, bus cannot do that, but door-to-door service. So we have to compromise both of them. We have to complement each other's and do a best service for the car.
Thank you, Shiva. Well, let's take some questions from the audience.
Hi, so yes, I'm the only lady, so I can call you guys. I'm sorry, I'm a bit disappointed because the title of today is revolutionizing. And so far, I have not heard anything about revolutionizing. Mr. Priyal talked about improving. For me, improving is not revolutionizing. Mr. Ranjit actually very eloquently pointed out what are the drawbacks of our railway system today. And we have, as Mr. Maramperi said, we now have some, I'm sure the whole audience have some idea of the challenges today we have if we are to revolutionize the railway. So I think what we need to do is not live in the past, not talk about what we had. We know where we are, we know what we need to do. So let's get together and think, how can we get to the point where we can revolutionize and get our railway which something which we can be proud about. Mr. Sivakumar is here, Dr. Sivakumar is here. He is a research person and he can update us on what science, technology and innovation out there to help us. Because I don't think from this archaic system we can go to what we want today by traditional means, by looking at the old one. If the government is pumping billions of money for road build, then why can't we demand, we build new railways? We build new, we are not telling that get away from the old one. We may still be able to use the old ones. But as you say, it is not cost effective, it is not speed worthy, they were not designed to carry passengers. So let's build railways which can take passengers. So let's, maybe this forum, you guys all are engineers, you can come up with innovative ideas. How can we do it fast? Let's take the science, technology and embed that. You said we built carriages before, let's do that. Why can't we demand that we can do that? Let's build, and maybe if the need be, let the engineers, you guys get together, build and prove that we can do it today. Let's look at the science and technology. Let's start in this forum today, coming up with a master plan. How are we going to use our science and technology to take our railways? Where should they be? Let's talk about revolutionizing. Revolutionizing cannot be done without re-engineering. So maybe you are engineers. Come on, guys. I am giving you the challenge.
Yeah,
Take the stage.
Just a second before you pass the mic to somebody. Would you please state your name?
Yes, I'm Geeta. I'm from the Secretariat for Science, Technology and Innovation. So hence, we are actually looking at today how we can embed science and technology into our industries. We three guys, we are looking at actually inclusive connectivity, and we are here today because railway is part of that. You are very correct. I think railway is the way forward. According to JICA surveys, the coastline capacity is over 200 plus %. So we came to here today to hear what your thoughts are and how the technology is. So I hope that this forum is a start to get there. Thank you.
අපේ රේල්වේ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ ඉංජිනේරු මහත්මරු. කීර්ති, you have a question?
I am Kirti Avadhan from Railway. Actually, that lady, I think, gave me a eye opener to the discussion, and I had a private experience that in these days I am attending that one training course conducted by Korean expertise in RDA, facilitated by RDA. That is called Greater Colombo Centralized Traffic Control System. Because actually these people are training us to have our own model. But last session, I have attended only 2 sessions up to now. But last session, there we see one fundamental question in Sri Lanka. Mainly because that I think then in their lecture, they insisted to have a development or any kind of maybe improvements. First of all, you must have a transport policy. Then you must have transport action plan. But I think that in Sri Lanka, we have action plans separately for RDA, railway, and private bus section, and even motor traffic, and local government, and municipal council. Because all these are the stakeholders of the transport, providing transport facility for the passengers. But unfortunately, in our legal framework and the political framework, there are I think that no possibility of having a transport policy, because these things are belongs to different entities, because different ministries. According to the Korean experience, they advise us to have one maybe umbrella. There must be one different ministry, or maybe something like that, with some legal framework which bond each of these things. Actually, that our Mr. Sivakumar, as our lecturer Mr. Sivakumar said, if we are going for having a multimodal type transport model, how can we get it with Sri Lanka Railway is not connected with RDA. We have nothing to do with CDB. Now we are developing that our northern line. We are constructing our stations standalone. We have never thought about maybe bus transport or taxi or anything. That I think the main fundamental question is, we must first we must have some kind of legal framework to enforce this type of maybe things, and then we must have transport policy, and then only we can have the action plans for these each and every sections. But there must be some interconnection these things, and it should be legally supported. Without, according to the Korean experts, without legal support, duplication of work and maybe extra expenditure on the infrastructure, and conflicts between these things arise.
Thank you. Yes, Priya.
Yeah.
Come in.
There are these two
just let's manage this. Priyal, you want to make a comment about that? My question.
Actually, let me make a bit now.
We'll get you. We'll get you.
In fact, which is Yogi, Gita. Yeah, Gita's comments are very, very valid in the sense that that actually we should revolutionize the railway. Only thing is that the state that we are in, as I explained in detail, before we revolutionize, we had to get over that particular state that we are. We are in a sort of in a dump, right? We had to first of all get out of the dump before we revolutionize. Now, the situation is actually that now we had to actually target ourselves to improve our productivity. Now, where are we? Now, Malaysian Railways, they have only 4 employees per kilometer. 4 employees per kilometer. The network is more or less the same, maybe about, say, they are 2,000 kilometers, we are 1,500 kilometers. But today in Sri Lanka, we have 12 per kilometer. We have altogether 17,000 people. So where is the productivity? Now, the Jaffna line has been improved to run at 110 kilometers per hour with concrete sleepers, ballast, more than about 2 feet of ballast, this and that, everything is there in top condition. But still, the same amount of inspectors are there, same amount of workers are there. Right? So, where has the government intervened in doing a work study and say, look here, you could not manage with the same amount of work, we have improved this line. So let us get a return on this. Right? So now you must reduce the number of workers, reduce the number of inspectors. We will give them to travel from A to B vehicle. Right? By that you can save quite a lot of money. Now these were the managers. There are rail managers here. Engineers who are here. The engineers must come forward and tell, look here. Now we have improved the line. The government has spent so much of money. The people have spent, not the government. People have spent money. So let us give the return back to the people and reduce the number of from 16,000. You can easily reduce to about 12,000 people. Likewise, in the locomotive section, also you can do that. I don't have to go into detail. So, and the other thing is very correctly, Mr. Hevavitaran mentioned about now RTA is thinking of extending, doing an expressway from Dambulla to Jaffna. Why do they want to do expressway from Dambulla to Jaffna when the railway is running very smoothly at 120 kilometers per hour up to Jaffna and KKs? So that means you are duplicating resources. Now you have to spend again on infrastructure, investment on infrastructure. And what is the return that you get? So these are things that, there has to be a master plan. There has to be a master plan, as he pointed out. And we must find out what has to be done by a certain stakeholder, RTF this much, railway this much, and some other person so much. We have to sort of specify this before we just embark on individual master plans.
Thank you, Priyal. There's a question to be asked from the audience. Your name and introduce yourself, please.
I am U.S. Karunaratne, Additional General Manager, CECB. My childish wish was to become an engine driver because my father, he had a more than 40 years stay in CGR. So I also have in my blood some kind of, as you correctly said, some kind of railway, things. පළවෙනිම සර් කියන්න ඕනේ සිංහල මිනිස්සුන්ගේ සාත්‍රෙත් දන්නවා සූත්‍රෙත් දන්නවා. සුද්දට සාත්‍රය දැනගත්තා සූත්‍රය ඌ දන්නේ නැහැ. ඔන්න ඔය හැම තමයි ඔබතුමා කලින් කිව්වා වගේ අපි කාපු ලොකුම හැම. හරිනේ? හැබැයි මට හරි කනගාටුයි කියන්නේ එක පැත්තකින්. We want to change from the British, thinking to Sinhala or Tamil or Sri Lankan, to heritage or thinking. But you all three have, wear the tie, which is not, this is the mentality that we are following. We always appreciate, even though you say that we want to think in Sri Lankan way, but you wear it in a different manner. So it is not the way that railway very badly managed. Correctly, this lady correctly pointed out, it is this lecture is not anything new to the revolutionize. It is a history. Thanks, Mr. Dissanayake, you have undertook the responsibility of a senior engineer or an engineering community. You have done a great work. I am very fascinated, hearing your lecture. Even your book I have all in my personal collection. I went through most of the things because, it is very, very fascinated. But the thing is, මට ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා සර් අහන්න. ඔබතුමාලා නිතරම කතා කරමින් උඩරට ලයින් එක ගැන විතරයි. ওই ලයින් එකේ ලෙන්ත් එකයි අනිත් ෆ්ලැට් ග්‍රවුන්ඩ් එකේ ටෙරේන් එකේ තියෙන ලෙන්ත් උයි අතර ප්‍රොපෝෂන් එකේ වෙනස කීයද? දැන් හැමතිස්සෙම කතා කරේ මේ ග්‍රේඩ් එකේ කර්ව් එකේ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේනේ. ග්‍රේඩ් එකයි කර්ව් එකයි පැත්තකට දාලා මට කියන්නකෝ ෆ්ලැට් ටෙරේන් එකේ තියෙන කතන්දරේ 100 කීයද 160ද 80ද කීයද තියෙන්නේ? About 60%, more than 60%. I believe more than 60%. Still it is flat terrain, no problem. So where the problem is where? Bad management. තීරණ තීන්දුව ගන්න බැරි මිනිස්සු ඔය තැන්වල හිටියම, my father always, he remembers, still he is alive, 88 years. He always, commend two general managers. One is Rampala and the other one is the tall man, Idris Suryo, Jai Suryo, Veera Surya. That's right. The other general manager who stood, against the political, wishes. They came up with, different and innovative ideas. In the same time, they had a backbone. දැන් හැතර ඉංජිනේරු මහත්තුරුන්ට මම දන්නේ නැහැ backbone තියෙනවද කියලා. E culture. Now we are heading towards F culture. Foolish. Fools, I don't know. All like to do this and that. Not use of this. Every time, that we are heading towards, I don't see any, I have not seen in this lecture any proposals or any, how are we going to revolutionize? So I think, Mr. Arjuna, you can do that, sir. You can do that definitely. You take this forum to a shop or something to discuss.
Yeah.
Not only stopping at the discussion. ISL එක අපි හරි කැමති මෙතන ඔය කයිය ගහන්න. මිනිස්ටර් ඉස්සරහට ගියාම yes sir 3 back full තමයි කතා. So it is
Right.
worthless.
Right. Now, let me make a quick comment before we actually, it's more of a comment, it's not a question. Interesting point was that, and it's a valid point he made. Of course, Ranjit, when he started, he made sure that most of his discussion is going to be about the history, but then also you set it up very well, actually, sir. In my opinion, you actually enlightened us with the current situation. Certainly, although you said that you are going to spend more time on the history, but you actually did speak about the current situation. So, yes, certainly the idea here is that just to market where we are going, the sectional committee, definitely public transport, railway systems, etc., are definitely mainstream topics of Sri Lanka today. It's as big as food or water or anything like that, because if we don't do that, we'll get into real trouble. So that's where we are heading. Be assured we are heading there. We are actually going to the public with this stuff, not inside the auditorium here. We are going to the public with these discussions. That's where we are heading. But coming back to this question, which is lingering in my mind as well, I would like to pose a question to our professor here, right? And then take few more questions, because the time is right now, it's about 7:30. Is it okay if let me ask this question from audience as well as the panel members? Are you willing to give another 20 minutes of your time to ask some questions? Are you ready to do that? Let me ask the honored panel here first of all. They are willing to do that? Yes, you are? Okay, right? What about you? I no point in asking Ranjit because he will be here for the whole day if he wants to get things done. What about you? You are willing to give another 20 minutes here? Okay? Let me start with a quick question to Dr. Siva. Again, I am asking the same question actually. Okay, so systems have to be there, political system is there, we have all systems, blah, blah, blah. We got it. We got it. Even I got it. Can you come up with, not in details, but breakthrough technologies or strategies? If we were to have a clean sheet or what I will term as a green field, right? Okay, somebody says, get this public transport system through railways in order. What are the technologies that we should consider? You came up with one idea, the system approach, the boutique and everything in one place. I get it. We have seen this in abroad. But what are the real technologies we should be using today to improve the railway systems, if we were to do that? Be specific as you could be. that we can afford?
Before answering, can I touch on those questions also?
Please go ahead and do that.
Thanks for bringing up this idea called master plan. Actually, I'm very much happy hearing that keywords, which is very important from the audience. So master plan is must. Without the master plans, I think doing works piece by piece here and there won't work much. So very correctly pointed out, master plan is must. I think Sri Lanka is now, at least compared to the past, we are with the JICA study and the Korean, and there are some other involvement. But local experts also now putting their hands into it. So master plan is very slowly coming in. I'm sure that it should be done very quickly because there are massive developments are going on. After the development, master plan is useless. So we would have had our master plan at least 5-10 years before. But nothing, something is better than nothing. So we are in the line, but hopefully maybe a little late. As very correctly said by the gentleman from railway also, he mentioned about master plan as well as the action plans. Yes, let's take a very simple example, the Singapore. The Singapore Transport Authority is the sole authority which has everything what we have in Sri Lanka under one umbrella. That is Singapore Transport Authority. Ports, that means harbour, airport, highways, railway, everything comes under single umbrella. Single authority, they manage everything. So it's very easy, very, very simple. It's very easy to manage because it's under one administration, so it's easy. So I think we as a Sri Lankan, we as a professions and we as a practitioners, we were thinking and talking about this much too much. And I'm very correct by the generation, I don't know how to change this one. Though people know what to do, but the generation is not doing what they want to do. Because it's a fear factor for some reason, I don't know what, that is there. We have to overcome that. If you want to say something, you should say. That generation is, that previous generation is now little by little deteriorating for some reason. I'm very correct about the third, the person who raised this question, Mr. Karnaratne. He actually pointed out, he's very correct. Now we don't say what we feel correct. We should do that. At least in some forums, we should say that. If you are not ready to do at a very public forum, is fine. But at least in the closed forum, in the professional forums, you should take. But there are people to take that to the next level. Political support is very important, and also the transport policy he has talked about. Transport policy, there is a policy document is already in place. Unfortunately, that policy doesn't have the railway component, if I am correct. So that is very pity.
Just a clarification, slow down right there. So Sri Lanka has a policy paper on transport.
Yes.
But the railway system is not included.
Not included.
Do you, sir, have any idea why that is the case?
Probably. This has a different agencies was involved, and actually we as a professional, we also involved there. But when the paper comes, we also raised this one. There was a public awareness program, we raised this one. But that was too late, and that held in somewhere in 2009 or 10, I'm not sure. So we were surprised why railway is not in transport. But somehow it is made because of the administrative structure here, bad administrative structure. Department of Railway is something is not considered at all. So that's really pity. But we have to think, revise. Maybe we have to revise the transport policy again to include this, and also make it one umbrella. Very difficult. I am sure that it will take a very long time to come to that stage. Making all the transport stakeholders into one. UDA, RDA, NTC. There are different authorities about passenger transport. Railway, there are numerous number of stakeholders in the transport field, but everybody is excluded. Everybody is doing their own thing. None other entities knows about it. I am also feel guilty and pity about it because there are different developments are going on in this, particularly in urban area like Colombo, but still as a professionals, we don't know anything. We see the paper, there is a development. So this is how we move. So I'm very sad about it. But we have to come out. Maybe IESL is one entity as an engineers forum.
Now, if you could kindly, sir, right? You said proper system has to be there, collective work and etc. We got it. Can you please tell us, if we had that, let's say today, tomorrow, magically, we have a transport authority in Sri Lanka. Everybody is connected. Everything is perfect. Now we want to solve problems.
Right.
We still got the old system. What are the engineering solutions or technological solutions we should think that are appropriate for us now? Not for United States, not for Canada. What is appropriate for us? That's what I like to hear.
Right. Let's say everybody is green on it. One umbrella, I mean, that's what we want. Everybody green for what is for the future. Somebody takes the decision or initiation, everybody support it. That's basically the one umbrella. So that is given. So then what we have to do is we have to look at the ventures, right? So what is our future? Let's assume, let's say nowadays 2020 or something. I am just not anything related to 2020, but 5-year plan. Let's start for a 5-year plan. How this Columbus city should be in 5 years. So everybody should look at it without going much far about. So we have to think about what is our existing line in terms of railway, what is the road network, what is the bus network, what are the terminals we have, what are the administrative structure we have that is called land use. Everything should be interconnected. Hospitals, schools, all the entities which attract people, all should be taken into account, and then that is called master plan. So we have to come up with a master plan and then start implementing one by one. I'm not saying nothing magical. Science is no science here. It's very fundamental. You put the master plan.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Siva, right? I'm going to force this issue on you because you are the youngest member in the panel and I'm sure you have the latest knowledge. That's my assumption, okay? And I think that's a very fair assumption. I read your background. Let me once again ask the question. We understand we need a systems thinking. The country has agreed, politicians, the engineers, everybody wants to do that. What I am asking is that if we were to change this arcane system, these gauges, these stations, these signals that he was joking about, and nicely done by the way, Mr. Dissanayake, I enjoy that part, how you mimic the people on the stations. What I am asking is, as a citizen, there are so many technologies today in the railway arena. What are the technologies we will use to upgrade our railway system? That's what I'm asking.
Right. Then it's, let me again, because I am lecturer, so I just go into framework. That's my nature. So let's take the vehicle. How you want? What modern vehicle you are hoping to go for it? And then what is the running way? Is it again the gauge, right? Then again, who is going to operate? Who is going to regulate, right? And then the services, whether it is local service, express service, mix of service, or different purpose-oriented services, you can think about the list of items. And then the more important, you are interested about the technology, is the ITS, so Intelligent Transport System. So integrated stations, integrated station with the bus terminals, everything is interconnected, so everybody knows in your smartphone or wherever, when the trains comes, when the bus comes, when this, which trail is got connected to which bus. Fare collections mentioned by Priyal, one payment everywhere. So there is no, you don't need to take out your purse or anything multiple times. Take at the origin and destination. Those are the two locations you swap your card or swap your mobile phone or you swap your whatever the systems available. Everything else is integrated. Everything else is also magical, but it's really, it can be done. It's nothing. Sri Lanka particularly we are not behind the technology. That is the positive thing in Sri Lanka. We are not, we are up to the standard. Whatever the technology is there, that comes to Sri Lanka immediately. Even the vehicles, you can think about it. Whatever the new brands of vehicle is ready-madely available on the road. So we are very powerful in some sense. I don't know. So we can do in terms of vehicle. Let me go back again because he wanted modern technologies. Let me go back again. Vehicle. What sort of modern vehicle we can purchase? There are variety of vehicles available. You can take an exploring different kinds of vehicle. You can go high speed, low speed, but I don't think any of these Shinkansen or Macpel or whatever the high speed, we don't want to think about it. Don't think about it. It's useless for Sri Lanka because our length is very limited. Width and the length of the country is so small. So we don't need to go for that 320 or 250 kilometer per hour systems. We should go what we want. That is one. Then again, station. Station should be, as I mentioned, station should be very equipped. Wi-Fi systems, easy plugging. You can use your equipments freely, and it's not the station. It's a livable complex. So anything what you want to do, you can do it. Like I lost my day sometime in Japan because I don't realize whether it is evening or afternoon or it's already got 10 p.m. Sometime I lost because I enjoy shopping and I lost my day because you don't feel anything. You're under a different world when you get into a railway station. So the station design. Then again, the system, services. That is, we have to think about some, whether the long distance services, short distance services, who is going to connect which, again, the cross feeder services, like mentioned by the presenter also, the feeder services, how the main line is connected with the feeder services. Everything is not paperwork. Very important. Nothing is paperwork. Paperwork can be done in minor, because there are some essential things to be on paper, but ITS is available. I don't want to say much about it. ITS, let's say signal priority.
Please expand the term ITS.
ITS is like simple. One scope of an ITS is, let's say you have an at-grade railway crossing. Then the detecting of the vehicle, detecting of the rail, and closing of the door, and alarming this whatever the sound systems, and everything is automated. There is no manual intervention in there. Again, sorry for comparing because I was there for 3 years, so I'm very much fascinated about the Japan system. Shinkansen is running around about 250 kilometers per hour, but still they can stop their train if the seismic detection is coming. Fully automated. So it's in terms of technologies, everything is there. So just we have to adapt here. That's all.
Shiva, I think Priyal is itching to answer this question I asked.
Yeah.
So let's say thank you, Shiva.
So actually, you will be surprised if I say that this kind of revolutionizing was thought in 1968 by the railway electrification. Now, as Arjuna pointed out, 18% of population is going to live in suburban areas. In fact, they thought at that time that it happened so. In fact, they decided that they electrify the 4Ks. What are the 4Ks? Kalutara, Kottava, Kurunayakala, Kochikade. Right? If you electrify the 4Ks, right, this problem will be solved. But these ideas got dropped off over the years for some reason or the other. Because, as Ajit pointed out, there are administrators above us, above the railway, who thought that it would be better to improve the road and buses and various other things rather than improve the railway. In fact, you won't believe, in 2001, I was called to the treasury and I was asked how you could improve the railway. I told first and foremost, if you could electrify, we can run trains at a faster speed, at lesser frequencies, and we can make it as a mass rapid transit to Colombo. So then they told me, no, that's big investment. With the present service, how are we going to run? I told them, I have only 32 diesel multiple units at the moment. According to the population requirements, demand, please give me 60 power sets. I will run and show. But please see that every 3 years you add 5 more power sets to the fleet. That recommendation I gave in 2001, but it has come to light only now. Now they are having 70 power sets. Now they are having 70 power sets. Now the GM has a very comfortably he can run the service. Right? Now, actually, you will have to understand that there is an improvement in the railway. We must not always look at the negative side of the railway. There is definitely improvement. You know the Expo carriages which run to Kandy and to Badulla and places like that, people are very comfortable. And businessmen who earlier traveled by rail, right? My son's company, the managing directors and directors, now they go for meetings to Kandy by train. Right? And of course, as is pointed out in Shinkansen, the ticket conductor has a special radio. Right? He tells the next station that he can accommodate so much of passengers in this particular coach, so many passengers in the other particular coach. And those passengers are entrained and they are given seats and given the ticket in the train itself. Now there are systems where the goods can be tracked. Goods which are the freight that you put onto the train can be tracked. See where the freight is. Right? And supposing a wagon has to be detached at a particular station, the computer will say, okay, there is enough room for this particular wagon to be detached at the station, according to the other wagons which are placed on the sidings and so forth. So those are the revolutionizing that she was speaking. Not that we don't know. We know that. We know that. But as I told you earlier, we can't do the leapfrog because of various other problems in this country. And we also would like to be, we'll be very, very proud to be the general manager of such a railway. Yes, definitely, yes. But we could not do it. But we had to, certain times we had to fight with the politicians. You please tell your father that it's not only Mr. Rampal and Veerasuri, Priyal Disil also fought with the politicians. Right? Yeah, maybe I was, maybe that. He didn't know. Yeah, but definitely you can ask all these gentlemen, right, who fought with the politicians after Mr. Rampal. You can ask all these people. But, you know, more you fight, more they are against you. More they are against you. This is what happened. Right? Because it's very difficult to make a politician understand, right, what is the correct thing. Because they understand only the purse, not the policies.
Priyal, I was waiting for you to
Thank
come
you.
up with that
Thank you very
punchline.
much.
You finally said it, so that's thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Priyal, I was watching you, not only listening to you, I was watching you. And I know you meant what you said. You was 40 years, 40 plus years, almost 40 years in railway, and even more than that probably.
My grandfather was also a station master.
That's right.
My father retired as additional general manager technical, and I was general manager railway.
Yes, because I heard that story during your book opening. So you spoke with passion and etc. Now, but we'll wrap this up by exactly at 8 o'clock. We got 10 minutes just to little bit rituals that I have to go through. But I would like to give an opportunity to Ranjit, who has been very patiently waiting because you already had almost more than half the cake before, right? So I'm going to be very specific, Ranjit, with you as well. Please try to be very specific because I know you got the body of knowledge because you are a practitioner, you are a practical man, right? And if you read his executive bio, I mean, he comes from a different background, but he experiments, he tinkers with this business. I like that. I really like that. That's why you were invited to this speech, because that's what I respect about you mostly. You tinker with it. So could you tell us, could you answer that question I asked? I think Priyal gave very interesting answers. Siva, you went around that. You didn't come up with specifics, but thank you very much for bringing up the master plan. You were very specific about, smart technology to give information, etc., which is very good, by the way. What do you think, Ranjit, that we should do in terms of technology, in your mind? Because let me say why I'm asking this. As Priyal rightly pointed out, I don't think we are short of our knowledge, right? If you don't have it today, tomorrow morning you can have it. You go to the internet and figure it out. That's not a big deal. But we have to come up with answers that can be implemented this year, next year, the year after, so that we have a game plan for beyond that. You can't go to any politician. You can't come and give me an explanation like the way some of these things and say, we can do all this. I'll say, how are you going to fund it? Right? So, Ranjit, please give us some practical thoughts behind this. I'm sure you have thought about this. The mics, please. Yeah. And when you do that, sir, I know you got a pretty booming voice. Please,
Mr. Palida Samarasinghe, I would wish to see you back here, this seat, because I am
Yes,
going to
for 5
touch
minutes,
on
yes.
you as well.
Yes.
Because Mr. Palida Samarasinghe was the chief signal and telecommunication engineer in the railway department, and he is still young, not yet 60 or 55, so he could have continued. But I don't know. I don't want to come out as to why he left the department. Because I know, but he has in the back of his mind what technology has to be introduced for the signal department. And he made proposals to the management. But nothing came true. Where you get disgusted. People get distracted. You can't be head of a department if you are not listened to. That is one reason Mr. Palida left the railway and is now with the Ministry of Urban Development and Defence. You see?
What did he propose, sir? What
Yeah,
I saw?
well, okay. Now, whereas signaling is concerned, Mr. Palida Samarasinghe knows better. Right. So he knows what ERTMS is. He knows what ETCS is. He knows what GSMR is. What is happening in the rest of the world, he knows. But he cannot implement here. We are still going by the old color light signaling introduced in 62. That's why in my speech I said that talking about the signaling. Then about before you come to mechanical and motive power, first thing is technologically we must change the British specifications. සුද්දගේ ස්පෙસિෆිකේෂන් එක වෙනස් කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒක දන්නේ නැහැ අද ඉන්න ට්‍රාන්ස්පෝර්ටර්න්ට්ලා. Except for one Dr. Lalita Siri Gunaruwan, who is a non-railwayman, none of the other transporters in Sri Lanka knows the Suddha specifications. We must change Suddha specifications. The first thing, then only. For example, as I told you, from Colombo to Rabukkana, there are 22 permanent speed restrictions. Why the hell should we have permanent speed restriction from Colombo to Rabukkana and run at 50 miles per hour with 22 cautions due to gradients and curves? ඒක නැති කරන්න ඕනේ ඉස්සෙල්ලම. ඒක නැති කරාම if we could have a level and a straight track, straight without curves, level without gradients track, we can run at 120 miles and beat the bus, beat the road transport. That should be our technology. That should be introduced. We should introduce technology to beat the road transport. Everybody will come to the rail and provide park and ride facilities, integrated tickets. All that must come in later on. You can have major, what do you call, mega transport hubs here in Colombo, anywhere. But before that, we must do the railway. No, nothing is being performed as at present to thank you, Mr. Karunaratne, and thank you to that lady, Geeta. She very well correctly pointed out there is no revolutionizing of the railways. That must come from these transporters who are handling these transport policies. What is the National Transport Commission doing? We have an NTC. No railman is there. No rail.
Ranjit, forgive me for
Thank you.
interrupting.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
it's
sorry.
okay. It's okay. Yeah, no, I'm going to confirm something. All right, because I think very simple terms, and I'm learning, and therefore I can ask better questions. So what you are proposing as one of the ideas is what you proposed earlier. Now it makes more sense to me. Hang on a second. What you are suggesting is that all these automations systems are important. But what you are saying is that when the current railway track goes in winding mountains and etc., why don't we put the railway tracks on flat roads if possible and less gradients and things like that and eliminate the curves? We can start doing that, right? That's what you're basically one of the proposals that we have. Let me, I want a single yes, no answer. Siva, does that make sense to you? Yes or no? Yeah, yes or no? Because I understand what he's saying. He's saying railway tracks are going all over the place, wasting time and at a very slow speed. And that is because the specifications given. On top of that, all other nonsense has been put in line. He's saying we can start changing them tomorrow. Not a systems thinking, but it's a specific thing he's saying. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, if the terrains allow us to pump some because we are talking about the mountainous area. So yes, if we have flat or mild terrain, straight, of course, there is no question at all. Always yes. Only the problem is the capital cost for constructing such a mild flat. Maybe we may have to go for tunneling, or we may have to go for some extensive infrastructure. But still worth comparing the future.
Priyal, just a quick answer on that one. Same question I'm putting to you. Does that make sense?
You know,
Don't worry, I'll give you a chance.
it is a cost-effective way of transporting from A to B. You know, having a flat terrain, going at a speed, it's a cost-effective. Now, my point is, what are the expressways? What are the expressways? Same thing, no? I mean, they have put viaducts between two hillocks, they have put a viaduct, right? And then they are going on one terrain, very slight gradient, to the point B, from A to B. So, same way, the expressways can be done that way, why can't the railways be done? Same way, only no investment on the railways, that's all.
Okay, thank you. We will take this question as the last question from the audience, if you don't mind, and then I'll give 1 minute each, and I'll tell you what the question I'm going to ask. There's two people who wants to ask a question. How many people want to ask questions? Please raise your hand. One more out there. Go ahead, sir.
Now, you were asking again and again about the technology that should be introduced to come up with the situation. In fact, technology of railway, technology to be introduced to railway depends on speed. From 0 to about 110, with the current situation, we can run the train without any problem. People know. But above 120, and if you exceeding 160, the technology completely gets changed. So, and then massive investment comes in, and then specification will get changed. So that is where we should first decide what is the maximum or what is the speed that we should achieve. We have to take a policy decision about it. And then only we can think of different technologies. What is the appropriate technology at that speed? And then again, we have to think of the capacities and all that for deciding that speed again. For example, as the speed get increased, the track capacity get increased. So like that, we have to see the compromise, investment and the speed and the capacity which we require. So we have to think of the balance of it and then take a policy decision about what should be the speed of Sri Lanka Railways. And then the technology comes.
Fair enough.
Then we should decide the technology. That is the point where we should start. So, that has to be done by somebody, I should say. When you are raising this question again and again, that's why I am telling you. That has to be the factor we should consider. Then regarding this policy, transport policy. I have the copy of that policy, which was approved in 2005, if I remember, prepared by Minister of Transport, which includes railway and all other sectors in it. It has been approved by the Parliament. What is missing here is there is no institution to drive it, and there are no transport research organization in Sri Lanka. So that is the part that we are missing with. And then if that was there, those people can't produce another policy in that. Actually, it's wrong, because this has been approved by the Parliament. No one can produce another policy. Throwing that one away. I have a copy of that. So the other thing, as Ranjit mentioned, see road sector. RD, Road Development Authority, that is the constructing arm of the road sector. And railway, we don't have that. Railway, Sri Lanka Railways, maintaining, doing new constructions, all sorts of things mixed up. And road sector, we see the boom. And railway in this way, if you don't have that construction arm, which will bring new technology even, cannot go like this.
If I support it, yes, very correct.
Keep it.
Probably the road also would have been end up in the same way that not maintained or not focused by anybody if it is not used by the private cars users. Simply, you can think about it, buses. Nobody is care about buses. They pump money for roads because of the cars. Here is everything is public, nothing private, so it's neglected. So very simple and clear.
All right, let's do
And give me 1 minute. The thing is, when it comes to rail, because the monorail is also a little bit of discussed very early. Bus, monorail, rail, these are serving different purposes. Bus is serving all along the corridor, catching that catchments. Rail is again station based, not in between. Monorail is in between, because monorail is go along the corridor of the normal road, not as railway. Railway goes away from the city centers and trying to connect the city centers only, but other than that goes because it's utilized the unutilized land for the construction. But whereas monorails comes, it goes through the heart of the city. And people says, I'm not against monorail, but people say it's because it's elevated, we are not disturbing the roads. Pillars, to construct the elevated expressway, pillars is very important. You can't narrow down because all engineers are here. We can't just construct with small dimensions to carry a higher load. So we have to go for considerable amount of width of the column, which is again comes to very close to 1 lane of width. Pretty sure. So it's not easy. So people trying to say some excuses because it's elevated, so no disturbance. Still have disturbance because the concrete pillars are there. And the purpose is different. It will serve one-to-one or one to some location, like airport to PETA, or PETA to some other administrative centers. Then the purpose is correct. So we shouldn't replace with one more to the other. Rail is serving their own purposes, bus is serving their own purposes. Even monorail is costly, very costly. But if you really want, yes, but not right now. That is the case. Again, let me put something different because you all interested about railway, but let me put something about the road also. If you want to develop a railway corridor even, then you can't just, you may build the roads, you may build the tracks and you may operate it, but you have to go something extra mile to catch the people. That is very important. In future, let's say we are deciding a new trace. People may think that who will use it? Don't worry. You put the track, you put the infrastructure, people will come. This is called chicken and egg. Whether you wait for a people to come and put the infrastructure, or put the infrastructure and people will come. both sides, it will work.
Okay, Shiva, you just warmed up at the wrong time, but that is exactly what I was looking from you previously. You really was very specific this time around. Now, just to be fair, sir, you are still urging to ask the question? Yes, please, we'll give him a chance because he has been wanting to ask this question one time. We are really past time. What I will do, before you ask the question, let me lay the groundwork here. We're definitely going to wind up after your questions and when someone asks that, answer that. And after that, I'll give 1 minute each. This is the question I'm going to ask, right? So get ready. The question I'm going to ask as the last question, and you only get 1 minute, nothing more. One thing you would suggest to do tomorrow, day after tomorrow, in the future, very near future. One thing, not many things. One thing you would suggest with all the things in your head that we should take on, the country should take on, or whoever who wants to take it on, right? So keep that in mind, and you get only 1 minute. Yes, sir. Question, please.
My name is Shanta Virasinghe. I'm an electrical engineer. I have been away from Sri Lanka for the last 20 years. I left Sri Lanka in 1994. And I am attached to rail business in construction as well as design. Now work in Hyder Consulting in Doha, Qatar. After listening to all these things, I have not a question to ask actually, some opinion to share with the engineering crowd here. I didn't know much about the Sri Lankan railway, the gauges and all that. Mr. Ranjit, I think, did a very good presentation. And while thinking through, I have this idea to share with you. I think if you have to revolutionize the railway industry in Sri Lanka, in my opinion, being in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Dubai Metro, and Doha Metro now, and Macau Metro, with my involvement, I feel we should start with going away from the broad gauge. I think we have to catch up with the rest of the world, so we should just go with the standard rail, standard gauge, light rail, or mass transit. Monorail is, of course, a single rail, so monorail is also coming under the same modern railway system. And I think we should start from Colombo metropolitan area, thinking of maybe monorail is already in the discussion. I think I have seen some video clips from airport to Colombo city with some fast express train links. So I think we should start looking at how we can start this process. Can we go with light rail with the intention of expanding it to metro mass transit system after 5 years or 10 years? And then we can start it with the Colombo city area and then slowly build up a proper metro network. And then try to use the existing rail system, but outskirts of Colombo as a heritage or freight train system, and then try to develop the metro systems in the other cities, including high-speed rail, probably from south to north. It's a good coverage because I work on Taiwan high-speed rail, which is less than, Taiwan is a smaller country than Sri Lanka, but they still built a 300 kilometers per hour high-speed train by Shinkansen, and it is very popular. So I think in Sri Lankan context, it's valid, but it may be 15 years down the line or 20 years down the line. But we can go for high speed from 150 or 200. There are various speed ranges. So I think that is my thought. It's not a question really, but it's just to share.
Thank you. I think the key point there you were raising, making a point that gentleman was making is that a little bit thinking outside the box. Sometimes just because the country is small or anything like that, you should not think differently about the speeds, because sometimes the times changes, society changes, and maybe speed becomes an important factor. Okay, now we're definitely going to wrap up by 8:15, so which means I have exactly 5 minutes, of which I'm going to give 3 minutes to each one of you. Sorry, we got to wrap it up. This has been an extensive discussion which shows the interest. So I promise all of you, anybody who's watching us on live stream and the panel members, there will be serious conversations about this very soon, and we'll bring it out and take it outside these rooms to the public and really make the citizens of this country very knowledgeable, because I certainly learned a lot. I keep in touch with a lot of things, but what I learned today is mind-boggling. I'm shell-shocked. Right, here comes the question. One thing, you got 1 minute, what should we do? One thing.
You have given a very difficult task because
Of course.
ideas are blossoming in my mind, but to be fixed with one. Recent in the sense 2002, I think I have did a memorial lecture for John Diendas for CILT in the same auditorium, which I have enlightened for the future in public transport in Colombo particularly. Particularly, I was talking about BRT. At the end of the session, there was so many different, because CILT is mostly the business people and entrepreneurs are there, and they came and asked. They shocked. Is it possible the private partners can join hand in the public transport? Then I said yes, of course. So my answer is also that railway should go for public, private, or some kind of mechanism. There are enough. No need to go for foreigners. There are enough local business people wanted to invest on railway. They are waiting for it. Go for it.
Excellent answer. Thank you. That's a very good, solid one.
Okay, my point is, I mean, let us take the model of India. Right now, India has the broad gauge, right, and they transport very much more people to their destinations than us, right? But same time, they have what is called a Delhi Metro, right? So what my point is, Indian railways are electrified to a certain extent. Let us electrify our railways also up to the forecast at least that the people are going to live, and of course assist that railway with the metro in the future, right? That will definitely solve the transport. But I don't agree with the monorail system. Although I did the study because I was forced to do the study, I don't agree with the monorail system because it has a limited capacity. It is normally used in other countries for limited areas only. Yeah, and of course, it's like this. I mean, monorail is generally okay for people transport 700,000 people or less. And after that, LRT, light rapid transit, is from 700,000 to 1.5 million. MRT, mass rapid transit, is from 1.5 million onwards, right? So what will happen is, like the Britishers coming and forcing us to put these various gauges and various locomotives and various things in our country, what will happen is, if we do the monorail now, we'll be settled with the monorail after 10 or 15 years. So please think, policy planners should think immediately of whether we are going to accept the monorail or whether we are going to a light rapid transit or a MRT which will cater for better needs in the future.
Excellent punchline, Priyal. Excellent. You guys are really getting to that point, right?
Yeah. I will finish it in half a minute rather. Yes. First is, with regard to the monorail, I do not know whether they have done a feasibility and done the compare and contrasting between MRT, LRT and monorail, the local and the BRT. I do not know whether they have done a comparison, the pros and cons of it. With regard to monorail, what are the countries that monorails have been manufactured? How many countries are manufacturing LRTs? How many countries are manufacturing BRT? And on what gauge? Very important. Now that we are having broad gauge, 5-6, whatever transport mode what we have, we must stick to broad gauge or standardize and go to standard gauge. That is about monorail. But the first thing what we have to do is organize a workshop, a 2-day workshop. Invite all concerned shareholders, the university dons, the businessmen, the commercial establishment, the engineers, the administrators, everybody, and let them give their views, and let us take